In a quiet neighborhood where tensions between law enforcement and the community often simmer just below the surface, an unexpected confrontation unfolded one fateful afternoon. The streets were familiar territory for residents who had grown accustomed to the ebb and flow of daily life, but they were also marked by an undercurrent of frustration regarding police conduct. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows on the pavement, a police officer patrolled the area with a keen eye. His demeanor suggested an eagerness to assert authority, particularly in a community where he felt entitled to impose order. It was during this routine patrol that he spotted a black man walking with a purposeful stride. Without cause, the officer approached, determined to make an arrest based on preconceived notions rather than evidence or behavior. What began as a seemingly ordinary encounter quickly escalated into a confrontation laden with racial tension. The officer's aggressive language and blatant racism became apparent as he unleashed a barrage of insults, reflecting deep-seated biases that plagued police-community relations for decades. The situation took an unexpected turn when it was revealed that the man he had targeted was not just an ordinary citizen, but an undercover FBI agent conducting an operation in the area. This shocking twist would soon rock the community and raise questions about justice, accountability, and the pervasive issues of racism within law enforcement. As the officer approached the black man, the atmosphere shifted from casual to confrontational in an instant. Without any prior engagement or visible cause, the officer called out to him in a commanding tone, demanding that he stop. The man, initially taken aback, complied but quickly sensed a hostility looming in the officer's posture and words. What could have been a simple exchange spiraled into a situation charged with tension. The officer's accusations were unfounded and laden with racial undertones. He questioned the man's presence in the neighborhood, suggesting he was up to no good simply based on his appearance. The language used was not only aggressive, but also peppered with derogatory remarks that revealed a deep-seated prejudice. As the confrontation escalated, bystanders watched in disbelief, some pulling out their phones to record what was unfolding. In the heat of the moment, the officer forcibly grabbed the man's arm, attempting to cuff him without providing any explanation. The scene grew chaotic as voices rose. Witnesses shouted words of protest against what they perceived as an unjust and racially motivated arrest. Amidst the confusion and mounting tension, the man remained calm and composed, knowing he had a duty to fulfill. Just when it seemed like this escalation could lead to dire consequences, an unexpected turn of events emerged. As the officer reached for his radio to call for backup, the man identified himself as an FBI agent, revealing his true identity and throwing both the officer and bystanders into shock. As the tension in the air reached a breaking point, the atmosphere shifted dramatically when the man calmly declared his true identity. "I'm an FBI agent," he stated firmly, flashing his badge as evidence. The revelation hit like a thunderclap, leaving the officer momentarily speechless and causing a ripple of shock among the gathered crowd. Faces changed from disbelief to intrigue as onlookers processed what they had just witnessed. The officer's demeanor shifted immediately. The bravado that had fueled his aggression faltered. He stepped back, confusion etched on his face as he tried to reconcile the man he had targeted with the authority he now claimed. The crowd, once fearful of an unjust arrest, began murmuring amongst themselves, questions swirling about how a law enforcement officer could make such a grave error. In that moment, the undercover agent explained his presence in the neighborhood. He was conducting an operation aimed at addressing local crime issues that had been plaguing the area for months. The realization dawned on everyone present. This wasn't just a case of racial profiling. It was a profound failure of communication and understanding between two branches of law enforcement. As tensions began to dissipate, it became clear that this incident would have far-reaching implications for both the officer involved and the community at large. The confrontation highlighted not only individual bias, but also systemic issues within policing that needed urgent attention. This shocking revelation set the stage for a deeper examination of race, authority, and accountability in modern law enforcement. In the aftermath of the startling revelation, the community erupted with a mix of outrage, confusion, and disbelief. Witnesses who had gathered to observe the arrest exchanged fervent opinions, some expressing anger at the officer's blatant racism, while others struggled to grasp how such a significant error could occur. Local residents, already weary from previous encounters with law enforcement, found themselves grappling with feelings of betrayal and frustration. Social media quickly became a platform for those voices to be amplified. Videos of the incident circulated rapidly, igniting discussions about systemic racism and police misconduct in the community. Hashtags related to the event trended locally, drawing attention from activists and advocacy groups who saw this incident as yet another example of racial profiling and the urgent need for reform within policing practices. Community leaders called for immediate accountability, demanding an investigation into the officers' actions and emphasizing the need for sensitivity training within the police department. Town hall meetings were organized where residents voiced their concerns and experiences with law enforcement, fostering a space for dialogue about race relations and trust rebuilding. As news outlets picked up on the story, it became evident that this incident resonated far beyond the neighborhood. It struck a chord nationally amid ongoing discussions regarding police reform. The community began to rally together, united not only in their condemnation of the officers' behavior, but also in their determination to ensure that such an egregious violation of trust would not be repeated. This pivotal moment served as a catalyst for change and solidarity amongst residents advocating for justice and accountability. In the wake of the incident, the police department launched an internal investigation into the officers' conduct. The gravity of the situation demanded swift action. As community outrage over the arrest grew louder, it became crucial for the department to address not only the officers' behavior, but also the broader implications it had for public trust in law enforcement. The investigation aimed to gather evidence, including witness statements and video footage from bystanders who recorded the confrontation. As the department sifted through this material, it became clear that they were facing a significant challenge: how to confront systemic issues within their ranks while maintaining accountability for an officer whose actions had starkly highlighted these problems. Community leaders and advocates called for transparency throughout the investigation process, insisting that any findings be made public to ensure accountability. They argued that this incident was emblematic of a larger pattern of racial profiling and misconduct that needed urgent reform. As part of the investigation, the officer was placed on administrative leave pending the outcome, a move that both satisfied some community members and sparked further debate about whether this was enough. Calls for comprehensive training programs addressing implicit bias and cultural sensitivity gained momentum, with advocates urging the department to take proactive steps to prevent future incidents. The fallout from this incident served as a critical turning point, underscoring the necessity for ongoing scrutiny within policing practices and setting a precedent for how similar cases should be handled in a community striving for justice and equity. The incident involving the racist arrest of an undercover FBI agent sparked a broader conversation about the pervasive issues within policing, particularly regarding racial bias and accountability. It illuminated how deeply ingrained prejudices can affect the actions of law enforcement officers, leading to misguided assumptions and unjust treatment of individuals based solely on their race. This case became a microcosm of the national dialogue surrounding police reform, drawing attention to the urgent need for systemic changes within police departments across the country. Advocates argued that this incident was not an isolated event, but rather reflective of a larger pattern that undermines community trust and safety. Calls for comprehensive training programs focusing on implicit bias, de-escalation tactics, and cultural competency gained traction in response to the event. Community members insisted that effective training could help prevent similar incidents in the future, fostering more respectful interactions between officers and residents. Moreover, the incident highlighted the necessity for transparent accountability mechanisms within law enforcement agencies. Many argued that without clear consequences for misconduct, trust between communities of color and police would continue to erode. As discussions progressed, local leaders began advocating for independent oversight boards to review police conduct and ensure that community voices were included in shaping policing policies. The incident thus served as a catalyst for change, prompting broader reflections on how to create a more equitable system that holds officers accountable while also addressing the root causes of racial bias in policing practices. The implications of this incident echoed far beyond the neighborhood, resonating with movements advocating for justice and reform nationwide. The revelation that the man arrested was an undercover FBI agent brought the agency into the spotlight, prompting discussions about its role in local law enforcement and community relations. The FBI, primarily known for its federal investigations, often collaborates with local police departments to address crime on a broader scale. However, this incident raised questions about how such collaborations are managed and the implications they have for community trust. In the aftermath of the arrest, the FBI issued a statement addressing the situation. They emphasized their commitment to safeguarding civil rights and ensuring that their agents operate within the bounds of the law while conducting operations. The agency underscored that their presence in neighborhoods is meant to help combat crime, but acknowledged that misunderstandings can arise, particularly in communities with strained relationships with law enforcement. The incident also highlighted a critical need for improved communication between the FBI and local police departments. By fostering better collaboration, agencies can create a more unified approach to policing that prioritizes transparency and accountability. This could help prevent future misunderstandings and reduce the likelihood of racial profiling incidents. Moreover, community leaders called upon the FBI to take a proactive stance in addressing systemic racism within law enforcement. Advocates argued that the agency should not only focus on criminal investigations, but also work towards rebuilding trust in communities disproportionately affected by police misconduct. This incident served as a reminder that effective policing requires not only strong enforcement, but also an unwavering commitment to justice and equity for all citizens. The incident quickly captured the attention of local and national media, sparking a flurry of coverage that highlighted the complexities of race relations and policing in America. News outlets reported on the shocking nature of the arrest, emphasizing the stark contrast between the officer's behavior and the identity of the man he targeted. This juxtaposition became a focal point for discussions on racial profiling and systemic bias within law enforcement. As videos of the confrontation circulated online, they ignited widespread outrage and debate across social media platforms. Hashtags related to the incident trended, allowing voices from all walks of life, activists, community members, and public figures, to share their perspectives. Many expressed anger toward the officer's actions, while others reflected on their own experiences with racial bias in policing. The discourse evolved into a broader examination of how such incidents reflect ingrained societal issues. Media coverage also included expert analysis on policing practices, with commentators discussing the need for reform and accountability. Opinion pieces began to emerge, advocating for comprehensive training programs and independent oversight to prevent future occurrences of racial profiling. In this environment, public sentiment began to coalesce around calls for change. Community forums were organized to discuss the implications of the incident and to strategize ways to advocate for justice and reform. The media not only served as a platform for reporting, but also as a catalyst for community engagement, fostering dialogue that would contribute to an ongoing movement advocating for equity in policing practices. This incident marked a significant moment in how race, law enforcement, and community relations are discussed in public discourse. In the wake of the incident, reflections on its implications prompted a deep examination of the relationship between law enforcement and the community. Many began to consider how incidents of racial profiling not only harm individuals, but also erode trust in policing as a whole. The arrest of an undercover FBI agent underscored the dangers of assuming guilt based on race, leading to calls for systemic change within police departments. Community leaders and advocacy groups recognized that this moment could serve as a turning point. They began to discuss actionable steps to address the issues laid bare by the incident. Initiatives were proposed, such as community police dialogues aimed at fostering understanding and cooperation. These dialogues will provide a platform for residents to voice their concerns while allowing officers to gain insights into community perspectives. Moreover, there was a growing consensus on the need for comprehensive training programs focusing on implicit bias, cultural sensitivity, and de-escalation techniques. Such training could equip officers with the skills necessary to navigate complex interactions without resorting to prejudice or aggression. As discussions evolved, many urged local government officials to consider implementing independent oversight boards that would review police conduct and ensure accountability. This could create a transparent process for addressing complaints and fostering trust. Ultimately, this incident served as a crucial reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice and equality within policing. By reflecting on these events and taking proactive steps towards reform, communities can work together to build a safer and more equitable future for all residents, a future where respect and understanding replace fear and bias. The incident involving the racist arrest of an undercover FBI agent has revealed deep-seated issues within law enforcement that demand immediate attention and action. It serves as a stark reminder of the systemic racism that continues to plague policing practices, undermining trust between communities and those sworn to protect them. As we reflect on the events that transpired, it is clear that meaningful change is imperative. This moment should galvanize community members, activists, and policymakers alike to come together and advocate for comprehensive reforms in policing. The call for enhanced training on implicit bias and cultural sensitivity is not just a reaction to one incident, but a necessary step toward creating a more just and equitable system for all. Additionally, establishing independent oversight bodies can ensure accountability and transparency within police departments, fostering trust within affected communities. Moreover, it is essential for individuals to engage in their local governance. Attending town hall meetings, participating in community forums, and advocating for policy changes can amplify voices seeking justice and reform. Each of us plays a role in shaping the future of our communities. As we move forward, let us commit to building a society where respect, understanding, and equity are not just ideals but realities. The actions we take today can pave the way for a safer environment where all individuals are treated with dignity, regardless of their race or background. Together, we can work toward dismantling the barriers of prejudice and nurturing a culture of accountability in law enforcement, ultimately striving for justice for everyone.